Gunman opened fire inside a Manhattan office building, killed a New York City police officer and 3 other people. The gunman then took his own life. The building where that shooting took place houses offices for the NFL, Blackstone, KPMG, and real estate firm Rudin. Joining us right now with a look at corporate security is Dave Komendat. He's the former Boeing vice president, chief security officer. He's now a partner, chief security officer for corporate security advisors. Good morning to you. Dave, you know, this is a tragedy that I think a lot of us watched on television unfold last night. I was getting texts actually from people inside the building as it was happening. When you think about corporate security in New York City, and you think about what goes on in lobbies, what goes on the street, are there lessons that we should be taking away from this morning?
Well, first of all, good morning, and thank you for having me. And really, such a tragic incident and loss of life. I think that the thing that corporate security leaders are looking at today is what they've looked at previously when you see incidents like this. Have they done all they can do to be prepared? Have they put together an intelligence-led security program that gives them the opportunity, hopefully, for early threat detection, rapid information sharing, and a coordinated response? And it's early in this investigation, but it's pretty clear that a lot of good things did happen yesterday.
If you were advising companies this morning that are saying to themselves, what should we be doing about our own security, what would you be telling them?
Well, I think they need to understand from a proactive intelligence, do they have a good perspective of their internal and external threats? You know, there are people that make threats that don't pose a threat. There are people that make threats that do pose a threat. And there are also people that never make a threat and are a threat. And so do they have the capability and the tools and the communications internally to work with themselves and also their partners in the building security and local law enforcement to put those pieces together and be able to identify people who may be showing undue interest in their company, the building itself, or someone within that building. And so I think that's what they're looking at today is, have we done everything we can do to be prepared for an event like this and hopefully prevent it?
In terms, though, of hardening buildings, especially in New York City, most of which have security guards, but not of all of whom are carrying weapons with them. Should they be?
Well, I think that's a building-by-building decision. And as we saw yesterday, when someone comes in with that type of capability, it's difficult unless you want to create really a perception that a building's unsafe and having officers walking around with long guns. That's not really practical. Building security in New York and in most major cities is very good. There's a process to get into those buildings. And this was one of those, again, low-frequency, high-impact events where the person walked in and basically ambushed everyone in that lobby with little to no warning. I'm not sure there would be anything that anyone could have done yesterday in that lobby, in that immediate moment, to change the outcome.
No, but Dave, the reason I ask is there are certain buildings in New York City where there is either a police presence or sometimes security that literally walks the outdoor corridors of the building, some of whom are carrying weapons. I mean, sort of clear efforts to sort of suggest to anybody who would consider threatening such a place, you know, you're not coming in here kind of thing.
Yeah, Dave, there's a far cry between carrying a long gun and having a weapon that you could have that, you know, that's not even obvious. I mean, a gun-free zone is totally unprotected and a total soft target. You would never see a government building in Washington, D.C. or anywhere else where you wouldn't have someone that could use deadly force if he or she was presented with it himself.
Yeah, I don't disagree. And in this case, there was an armed personnel in that lobby, the off-duty police officer, Officer Islam, who unfortunately lost his life.
Yeah.
But he was outgunned. That individual walked in with far more capacity and capability than the officer had, and the officer likely had no opportunity to even respond.
Right.
Dave, finally, there's sort of a larger question, obviously, about mental health, gun violence. This was somebody who had a mental health problem, clearly, and also clearly had access to a gun, at least in the state of Nevada, where he was given a license.
For carry.
For carry. What do you think has to happen here? And by the way, even a larger question, what should the role of business even be in that conversation?
Well, that's a large question. And obviously, the individual was licensed to carry the weapon. Apparently, he was able to purchase his weapon legally. Don't know about this particular weapon as the investigation's in the early days. But, you know, clearly we've seen time and time again in some of these instances where the shooters have a mental health issue, and it's been documented. And the question always comes back to, well, should they be permitted to maintain their weapon? And in many cases, in many states, if there is a concern about someone, that weapon can be for their own protection, the protection of others. Law enforcement can confiscate that weapon for a period of time to make sure that that individual is not in a position where they will do harm to themselves or other people. We'll have to understand over the coming days and as this investigation unfolds into what authorities knew, what, if any, actions had been taken in Nevada with this particular individual. But at the end of the day, it's a tragedy and just another unfortunate example.
Dave, I want to thank you for joining us. We appreciate your perspective on this morning. We also have some very sad news to report, which is Blackstone, one of the tenants in that building, is just out with a statement. It says the company is heartbroken to share that colleague Wesley LePatner was among those who lost their lives in that tragic incident yesterday. She was the CEO of the Blackstone Real Estate Income Trust. Blackstone said its prayers are with her husband, children, and family, and ours are too. And it's, you know, I think it just hits so close to home because this happened really in the center of New York City in a building that I think we've all been to and that a lot of people know. And it's right here on our doorstep.